Hey folks, welcome to this exciting video where you once again join me in the wild lands of Scotland. And for today's adventure, we've come out here to the incredible, almost moorlands of Perthshire, and we're right next to the massive Drumderg wind farm on the hill. I've just noticed there's a drop of rain on the lens already, so I'll give that a wipe. Yeah, so basically today I have to make my way down through this kind of forest track and then over a mad wild moorland here. Probably like about a mile over this moorland there's an ancient abandoned farm croft dating back to ancient times, probably way back in like the 1300s and stuff like that. A croft like that would have been on the go, and then over the years it was obviously changed and developed as like farming technology and even croft technology would have advanced. But then one day it was just abandoned and left, and it's literally like way out kind of on a boggy moor. So today's adventure, I've put the wellies on. This is actually a morning adventure. It's just before midday here, but the rain is on, so the ground could be quite boggy. It is a little bit less windy than what it has been as well, because recently on these adventures, folks, the weather's been so crazy. It's cool just to come to these places. Look at that. The atmosphere of this forest. The peaceful glen. I can hear a noise, like a roar in the distance, and I'm not sure if it's from the wind farm or... I'm not sure what the deal is with that there. So check this out folks, I'm actually walking past another abandoned farm which featured recently on this channel. I explored that place in depth. It's an 1800s Victorian farm abandoned in these lands, but the wee croft I'm about to look at, I can see it way in the distance. It's probably a mile away, maybe more, like straight across this direction. It's an even older croft, dating back to ancient times, so it's cool to explore all these places from different times in history. There's actually an old, what I believe is an old lime kiln over at the far side as well of this field, but that could have been related to either of these farms in this area. Yeah, check this landscape out folks. So mission aborted folks. It's not often on an adventure I turn around and don't go to the place I'm trying to get to, but in this whole piece of land I just looked over the hill and it's just cows grazing all over here. So I really can't get near the property. The abandoned croft is right within the area the cows are grazing, so I'm just kind of heading back to this little track that I came in on. It's often like that on these adventures as well, like exploring Scotland. Sometimes you have to respect the landowners and the farmers which still like manage and operate these lands. So this old building here that I suspected was an old lime kiln, let's investigate it and see what remains of the history. Whoa, this is a proper bog here. I need to be super careful. Boggy areas like this can have super deep holes in them. Yeah, it's like this has been an old grazing pasture back in the early days of this farm at the top of the hill. Wow, that would signify probably like this probably was the lime kiln, like the way it's constructed. Wow, look at this folks, it's so boggy at the door here, look at that. The standing water. But look at the size of these lintel stones above the door. Absolute monsters. And look, years and years of farm debris has been thrown in there. Look at the old kiln lintel stones leading the way in, they're still in position. That's a hole down into the depth of this. And look at the thickness of the construction here on the wall. Yeah, this is a madness folks. Even though I wasn't able to go to the original croft I was trying to go to, even seeing stuff like this, it blows me away. Blows me away. I can't even speak folks. The conditions are freezing cold today as well. It's just mad being out in this sort of climate. Standing in a bog here looking at an old bit of history. Look at the quartz and flint throughout that massive chunk of stone there. It's incredible to see. Yeah, the sun making a serious amount of noise over here. Sounds like there's a serious flow of water just underneath that bog grass. But yeah, look at that, there's more farm scrap and debris lying in there. It's probably been used as the farm midden. Every farm had an old midden back in the day. Look at the way that's constructed there. This side's actually in so much better condition. It's mad that these little stones are part of the construction, and like how long that stone's been in there jamming it. Years and years have passed. And I want to have a look at the top of this. Let's take in the full historical story of this little building. Often, the interesting thing, the old lime kilns were most commonly round on the outside, so it's interesting to see this one that's square, whereas the inside of it was still round, which is a cool detail. Look at these old bottles here, folks, under the moss. Look at that, it's like an old medicine bottle or something. It's still got the lid on it, and look, it's still full. What even is that, folks? An old bottle of whiskey. So clear, the liquid. I'll lay it back where it was. The history can remain. It might be whiskey though, because you would think if it was water it would have frozen and broken the bottle over the years. It is a little more windy now, I'm up on top of here. But below my feet, deep kiln structure. It would have been a great area for them to get rid of their waste for the longest of times. There's like so many glass bottles and stuff kicking about there. Look at the size of the stones that was used in the original construction. Wow, I came around this side because it's probably less windy. Look at that detail, the way the stones have been put in. That's the sort of thing, it's just an absolute madness, folks. And look at this hole here. I wonder if there's been a stone taken out or what the deal is with that. That could have been actually a secondary hole for letting the draft into the fire. You have to imagine a lot of this, it was probably higher, and a lot of these stones I'm sitting on has been knocked down from the top of this. Because it's a good couple of 100 years or more since a thing like this was in its prime. And look, the natural stone here's got that fissures of the rich ore, which is quite cool to see. Look, leading down through it's like a crack with that flinty kind of stuff on it. Almost quartz. Probably if you dug down inside that you would find some real interesting old trinkets of history. I was a bit cautious there, folks, because I was jumping down into the bog terrain. Anyway, let's keep this adventure going. See, before I headed back this way I had a good look over the far side, but there was no other like little abandoned buildings. The reason I didn't want to risk it going over where the cows are, like the fences and walls around here are no like going to keep a herd of cows back if they're charging at you, or sometimes cows can run about if they've not seen somebody in the land and they're no used to people walking about. They can get excited and run about, and that's not what you want. You don't want to be upsetting the boys' coos with them fleeing about, jumping fences, and they might even escape or whatever. So I just thought I'll turn around. We can come back to a croft like that in the future when the conditions are better. Look at this, there's a massive bird of prey up here. I'm not sure how well that comes out. It's just soaring over the top of our heads. Check it out, folks, how that little stream has been directed under the wee farm road. Think how long ago those massive stones were put on. When you're driving over this road surface here, that's basically what's underneath you. You can actually see the pebbles on top with a wee burn flowing underneath. And originally it was just a horse and cart rolling over that, and think now the boy will be going down there with his tractor to feed the cows or the sheep. But the wee bridge is just so strong, over-engineered for its day, using the natural stones of the land to create the wee bridge over the little stream. But this ground here is so extremely boggy. The green areas are areas which were drained at ancient times, and that's when these streams and stuff were first put in. And that's how they get these excellent pieces of land for like grazing. And yeah, I'm just once again approaching this beautiful scene of the Victorian farm. So for this adventure we could just take a mad little line here through some of these buildings and see where we end up coming out at the far side, and we'll document the history along the way, folks. I have been round this place and seen a lot of the history on the videos before, but let's just go down one more time. Look at the old animal feeders. And this has been a wee like garage on the side. Yeah, the character of this stuff, folks. I love the adventure. Coming into places like this, seeing the history and thinking about the old farmers and the folk that ran these lands for years, making their living from the crofts and the farming, and one day it was all just silenced. The ground bought up from nearby farmers that own bigger chunks of land now than what originally folk had smaller crofts within that land. Look at that, folks, the old green paint there on the door frame. The old area where the door bolt would have latched in. I love the little windows. It's got the little square panes of glass. Often that's the sign of like the Victorian era, when they had that multiple little rectangular panes of glass. Often, check this out, it's almost like there's been more to this shed and it's been blocked up and changed. And it looks like the cows still roam within this old farmyard, just like of the days gone by. Yeah, let's head through this way. Look at the bog grass here, folks. That shows the ground is proper soggy. You hate to watch often in that condition that you didn't disappear down a hole. Wow, look how many slates have come flying off that roof. That's how you always hate to watch your head on an adventure like this, in case you get a roof on your head on a slate. Little side sheds here with wheels for a Citroen 2CV and a headlight as well for the car. Same type of car. Look at this old door, it's still got the green paint on it, which is cool. Must have been the colour of all the doors and windows and stuff like that in this farm. Check out that angle out there, the windy shed. It's a windy shed with no roof, folks. Look at the way the roof beam's just hanging in mid-air. The whole roof, it's literally just being held up from these supports, because the end of the beams is just like dropping off. Yeah, look, the old light and stuff's up on the roof. And in this shed, it's the old cattle feeders. Check it out, little pig shed even maybe at one time. This is a detail that I love, folks, the old light switches, look at that. Classic light switch from back in the day. Yeah, let's have a peek through this door and see what's here. Yeah, look, that's the shed that's got like an old fireplace. Maybe used back in the day to keep the shed warm when they were like lambing. When they had the newborn lambs, they would maybe keep them in a warm shed like that. And then at this side, the grand Victorian farmhouse. I can just hear the call of these birds of prey at the top of the hill, and I just saw it flying out of that forest there, which we walked through on the way in here. Look at the way the trees and bushes take over. Once humans leave a place like this, nature just takes back over so fast. It's so much more peaceful being in the forest here, out of the wild wind, folks. There is a bit of sunshine today, which is pretty good, even though it's been raining kind of constantly, just with a drizzle. The sun's been just shining that whole time. Look at this tree's got no top on it, but it looks like it's still just growing like that. Often with these places, the moss just takes right over. Look at the character of this, how much moss is on that one little branch. Look at it, folks, it's just thriving here. So check this out, folks. We didn't get to see the original ancient farm croft that we were going to go and have a look at, but there's actually another one here hidden within the forest. And the clue that gives that away is this little outline here of stones. Look at it. It's a massive ancient wall. And look at the moss even on these stones. It's crazy to see the size of this sort of stuff. It's right next to a more modern gamekeeper's area here. Probably for rearing birds or whatever, that's what they have, a place like this. But let's head in, because this here is actually an old, like, croft or an individual home, kind of like settlement. That's the kind of word I'm thinking of. There would have been a little family living in a place like this, making their living off the land. Look at the way this one's like in the middle of the forest. This would have been the main gate into one of their little pastures here at the bottom of their property. There would have been a field here, probably a grazing land, but maybe also growing stuff like wheat, barley or whatever they had back in the day. Wow, look at that on the ground there, folks. It's almost like a bird's nest or something that's fallen out of a tree. Yeah, here we go. This is where the main little buildings would have been at the top. So ancient that you can hardly see the structures till you're right up at them. And I'd forgotten this place even existed till I saw the stones at the bottom of the hill. Look at it, folks. It's almost gone and forgotten in this land. If you see this blue pipe coming down on the ground, that'll be the more modern either gamekeeper or farmer taking a feed from a burn for like a water trough, because you see that a lot in the Scottish countryside and glens. Yeah, look at this little spot here, folks. Think how ancient these walls are. You have to think any old like wooden roofs or parts of the buildings now with places like this, they're just so far gone. All you see is like the remains of the stones or the walls. Wow, this is so cool, folks. This is like another animal area, I believe, at this side. It's so interesting to see. There's like little waterways and stuff at the back, but they've probably been dug at the time of the forest. And then another interesting detail, there's like a water source, like a wee stream that flows down that side, but that was actually for the time of the 1800s, like Victorian farm. They had a massive water wheel there that used to turn that farm barren mill. Check this out here, the old pan, or it's like a bit of an old oil can or whatever. And yeah, I'm impressed with the construction of some of these walls. All the different stones, the different shapes and sizes. And then think that you can tell how long it's been abandoned from its original glory with the size of these trees, like growing up through it. I'm not sure if there's been like an original old entrance here, but you can see how fallen down one side of it is now. Maybe with previous like timber operations and stuff going on in this area, things like this will just get damaged and knocked down over the years. More and more of the history gets deleted the more years that pass. Yeah, look at this wall. It's actually quite tall. It's about my head height. And it's impressive that it has stood for so long. At one time, you can just imagine, this obviously wasn't in the forest. This would have been in the middle of land similar to where we saw the other kind of like farm at the bottom of the hill. Wow, I'm just keeping the camera rolling right here, folks. You're on this adventure along with me, and I'm just figuring out like what has all been here at a certain time. Little wooden buildings, like I say, are gone now, and you have to think there was probably some sort of buildings here with the roof. Look at the way these are constructed with the massive stones. But it's something that I absolutely love in a place like this. Look at the moss, the different colours and textures, and the way they are. Such a variety of crazy colours. And in a place like this, the ground's just like a sponge with the different moss. It's probably like ideal conditions for the moss to thrive. And look, this has been like another doorway here. But yeah, what a special place. That kind of middle bit's been like a separate little area. Probably for sorting animals out from one of the sides, and then they could release them that way, kind of onto the hill or into more larger fields. Whereas this side looks like it's been more enclosed grazing. Maybe even with some crops at this side. The walls were maybe designed to keep a lot of animals away from eating the crops. Whereas outside the walls was maybe the main grazing lands. But so many years has passed since these old stones were put together like this. It's just mad to think, kind of like, and see what's here now. Just think about like the folk that actually put those stones in, like what were they doing? What sort of things were they thinking about on a daily basis? It's such a different culture back at that time. Ancient Scottish times, folks. And now I believe sheep must actually roam these lands, because that looks like evidence of sheep right there. So this here was almost the tale of three farms. The first one that we tried to get to and we couldn't, and then the second one that we managed to walk through, but I had recently documented it. And then this one, the forgotten little croft hidden within the forest. There could even potentially be more little ruins and buildings hidden within forests all around here, or even anywhere in Scotland. It's often amazing what you find just hidden away in these countryside lands. Now I'm just kind of navigating my way through here back to the track that I first came in on. So it's interesting to see these electrical wires running down to that old farmhouse at the bottom of the hill, because I believe that was how the Victorian farmhouse met its demise. It was through a fire which was caused by the electrical system within the house. Because I remember when I explored it, we could see the marks on the wall where the wires had been on fire through on the other side from where the main house was burnt down. So it's crazy to think about that. Often with the old Victorian houses, the wiring and electricity was fitted obviously at later times, so it wasn't incorporated into the original structure. You often see mad old wiring that's been just attached to like the outside of the walls and stuff. Right folks, that's us back to the main road where I started this adventure. I didn't know what I was about to go and see or find, and that's always what it's like on these spontaneous adventures. Unfortunately, we couldn't get to the first croft because of those cows, but we always come with the greatest respect to landowners and farmers, people out here making their living for this land. We were just wanting to document abandoned history that's almost gone and forgotten, and that's what we ended up seeing with that little ruin there in the forest. So much character with the moss and the way nature just takes back over any structure if it's left for a certain amount of time. It's impressive to see, and it was cool to document here. Anyway, I'm going to end this one here. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll be back soon with the next adventure, wherever I end up going.